The following program is a presentation of Mount Zion Media Ministries.
And from those verses, I want to talk about emotional and spiritual schizophrenia. Emotional and spiritual schizophrenia. I thank God for maturity, because there was a day when I would make fun of, look badly upon people with mental illness. But I thank God I've been converted. I've been changed. And rather than looking at them through some crooked eye, I now can look with an eye of understanding and compassion. And just like people who have cancer are sick through no fault of their own and shouldn't be picked on, so it is with people who have mental illness. And I emphasize the people before the illness, because the person always comes first. And so today, as I talk about this emotional and spiritual schizophrenia, I do so with a deep level of respect for any person who may be dealing with that, or if you got a family member who deals with it. Let me just give you a simple definition of schizophrenia. First, let me just say that word schizophrenia, that first part, schiz, has to do with the being split. And that second part, phrenia, has to do with mind. So it basically means a split mind. And it is a mental illness. And listen at what a person who has it has to deal with. A person with schizophrenia may not be able to think clearly, or may not know the difference between what is real and what is not real. They may have a hard time making decisions. They also may have trouble managing their emotions or relating to other people. This can make it hard for people with schizophrenia to function and interact in society. Here are some things that people with schizophrenia feel or experience. They may hear or see things that are not there, hallucinations. Believe things that are not true, delusions. Feel as if they are being watched, paranoia. Experience a negative change in self-care or personal appearance. Feel angry or fearful toward others. Act in ways that are strange or out of place. And I'm sure that as I read that, some of you could identify people you know. I know some people. But what I want to suggest to you this morning is we can take that same definition and those same symptoms and apply them in another way. I want to suggest that we can exhibit emotional and spiritual schizophrenia. And I want to tap in on that spiritual because the emotions are drawn out of that. But I put emotion up there for those of you that got a problem with the spirit world. And so hopefully you can catch up with us before we are through. But spiritually, we can have a split mind. In the book of James, chapter 1, around verses 4, 5, and 6, James says that if any of us lack wisdom, we ought to ask God. But when we ask him, we shouldn't be doubting whether or not he's going to give us what we ask for. But if we ask him, we ought to be doubly sure and believe what we ask for, because if we don't, he said we are double-minded. And a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways, and a double-minded woman is unstable in all of her ways. So that double-mindedness in our walk with God can show up in our faith life. We can be so confused, so split in our walk with God and our faith in him that sometimes we will get to the place we cannot distinguish from what is real and what is not real. We can get so caught up in fear versus faith until it becomes hard for us to make a decision. And I'm talking about God has instructed us to move by faith in a particular area, but we are struggling and don't know what to do. One day we're up and ready to go. The next day we're locked down and can't move. In our spirit world, we can have trouble managing our emotions and relating to other people. And it will all stem back to our spiritual walk. Hallucinations? Absolutely. Delusions about what's true? Absolutely. Paranoia? All of that? Absolutely. Maybe you hadn't caught it yet, so let me just give you some experience, some examples. In the Bible, there's some folk with spiritual schizophrenia, and we call them heroes. In fact, they are in the 11th chapter of Hebrews called the Faith Hall of Fame. Abraham is in there, but Abraham had schizophrenia. One day, Abraham's faith was so strong, he left home because God said go, not knowing where he was going. His faith was so strong that one day God had him to take Isaac on top of the mountain to slay him. And Isaac was concerned, said, Daddy, I see the wood, you got the knife, I see everything for the sacrifice, but I don't see the lamb. And Abraham's faith was so strong, he said, son, God got that. God will provide. And he was prepared to slay his own son. But in his mind, he believed that God would provide. But then one day, he had to go on a journey in a foreign land among those foreigners, and they had a king named Elimelech. And he was so scared of him until he put his wife on the line. He said, Sarah, you so fine. And when we get in that strange country, those men are going to like you and they will kill me to get you. So when we get there, I'm going to tell them you are my sister and not my wife, and then my life would be spared. On the one hand, he trusted God to lead him where he didn't know the way. He trusted God with the sacrifice of his son, but he couldn't trust God to keep Elimelech off of him. Spiritual schizophrenia.